Good evening and welcome to everybody to this HJ Goes Live. And as you can see, I'm joined by a superstar trio this evening, which I'm very excited about. So we're going to be talking about essential looks and all things creative with the team that look after essential looks for Schwarzkopf Professional. And that's Simon Ellis, so International Creative Director. Good evening, Simon.
Good evening.
Tyler Johnston, who is Session Stylist Extraordinaire and Schwarzkopf's Global Editorial Ambassador, and the lovely Lesley Jennison, who's Schwarzkopf's Global Colour Ambassador. So lovely to see you all tonight.
Hi, Jane.
And you, Jane, lovely.
Hi, Jane, lovely. Yeah. And,
so just before we talk about essential looks, it would be really good to, I just want everybody to get to know you a little bit. And I had the honour of talking to Tyler and Lesley during lockdown. But just for those people watching, just if you can all take, and I will lead you if you won't give us the information. Just give us a little bit of a potted history of where you come from, your journey in hairdressing. So, Simon, shall I pick on you first?
Okay, right? Yes, sure, of course. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us on board. I think it's really great opportunity to kind of just talk through the whole concept of fashion, essential looks, and so on. I joined hairdressing. I went into hair in 1974. So I've kind of been 40-something years in the industry, and I've always worked for only two companies. I started life with Sassoons. So I kind of did my apprenticeship, but we used to call it, I forgot what they call it, Vardering or whatever, back in Bond Street and Sloane Street. And I worked with people like Flint Wincock and Darryl, Benson, people who were really kind of Nick Foster Brown, who went on to, so really some big names. And then I basically then always felt that I never wanted to be a classical hairdresser standing behind the chair talking about yogurt to yogurt for every half an hour with clients. And I always believed that education was the road to go. And so I kind of approached Vidal and said, look, I want to be, because he was still working in those days, I believe you've got the opportunity to grow this area of business. And I then was moved into the schools area and took it from there. And I've always believed that education is the heart of what drives our industry anyway. So, and I just grew my career through the education side and grew up to be kind of one of the vice presidents of the company, managing both that, shows division, fashion weeks when we used to sponsor them. And that drew me into the world of fashion, the Fashion Week editorial team. So I ran the editorial team out of Sassoon as well. And then I left in 1999 and was headhunted into Schwarzkopf Professional in Hamburg. And at first, when they approached me, I turned it down because Schwarzkopf didn't even appear on my landscape. And they then reapproached and said, look, we need to change our image completely. We need someone like you. And so I was just brought in, and I've built, my part is to build this third arm of the business. So we have in the business, we have three arms. We have kind of marketing, sales, and the hairdresser, technical support. So I run the technical support arena, which involves everything from education through to image activities, which is essential looks, through to hairdressing awards. You're wonderful working with wonderful partners like you, running things like hairdressing awards, shows, events, and we now have moved very, very capably into the digital arena as well. So that's my world. So and very engaging, very interesting, never stops. We're always looking at the next thing. So it's absolutely fascinating. So, and I have the privilege to work with some great, very potted history. And,
of a very illustrious career.
Oh, thank you. And I'm British and I live in Germany. I live in Hamburg and I've lived here for the last 20 years. And in fact, I'm reading a really interesting book at the moment called, I don't think you can read it, called Why the Germans Do It Better. Very interesting.
Your fellow interviewees may have a different take on that. So, Lesley, let's come to you next. So,
okay, thank you, Jane. Thank you again for having us. I started hairdressing in the mid-80s. I started at Vidal Sassoon. I spent my first 3.5 years training because to be a colorist, it was always a longer training. And I knew within 3 months of starting, when I was 17, I started a bit later. And I knew within 3 months I wanted to be a colorist. So I didn't deviate from that. And I just loved everything about it. I mean, the whole industry, obviously, you know, I love our industry to bits, but colour really was everything for me. And I spent the next 18 years of my career at Sassoon's. And then I moved to a salon in Chelsea. And now I'm with the amazing Billy Curry and Debbie Curry that you know really well, with their salon in Chiltern Street in W1. And without lockdown, I'm normally there sort of 3-4 days a month, obviously not there at all. No. And I have been the global colour ambassador for Schwarzkopf Professional for the last 13 years and love it. Thank you.
Pleasure. And Tyler, talk to us about you.
Hi, Jane. And again, thanks for having us all. I mean, I started hairdressing quite young. I was 14, you know, typical Saturday boy, and running to the local salon on a Thursday night to shampoo all the old ladies and stuff. I've worked in a very traditional, classic kind of salon, you know, the Blue Rinse Brigade. Yeah. And then I kind of moved on to the cool salon and really just realized that there was a bigger world than just kind of working in the salon, you know, in the north of England, where I come from. So I could kind of definitely see that, you know, influences from people like Trevor Sorby and Vidal Sassoon's. I remember going on a course to Sorby's in London, and just the whole thing of, you know, being in London, and it really opened me up to, you know, kind of the world of sessions and really getting an understanding that there wasn't just kind of working in the salons. So a few years later, I kind of basically started vardering at Vidal Sassoon's in Manchester under the watchful eye of Bruce Masefield, who I vardered there, and he really kind of, you know, encouraged me to move towards the art team, and at that time I was kind of, you know, it was the days of the hacienda, and you know, a lot of the people that I was out partying with were, you know, also my clients. So there was a real kind of melting pot of these kind of creatives and musicians, and you know, I was kind of, you know, I started my kind of celebrity clientele from there, really, you know, working with, I mean, I think I started off doing Take That and the Spice Girls, and then moving on to, you know, the cool dudes like Johnny Marr and Liam Gallagher and, you know, Happy Mondays and, you know, kind of New Order and all of that. So that really kind of really established more that session work was where I needed to be, you know, not necessarily in the salon. I mean, I had great times there. And so when I was then promoted as art director, moved to Knightsbridge in London. And I was, you know, I was there for about another few years. And that was great for me because I was doing a lot more session work. And that's really when I got to meet Simon really properly for the first time. And from my point, the reason why I was at Vidal Sassoon's for so long was because of someone like Simon that kind of created this session world within Vidal Sassoon's, because traditionally it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a seen thing. You know, Vidal Sassoon's was very kind of what it's about, you know, their history and their heritage, and session world was a new thing. And Simon really kind of allowed us, and there was kind of, you know, about 4 of us, you know, the likes of Billy Curry, Peter Gray, Sandy Hullett, you know, that, and he really allowed us to go out and at the time I was doing a lot of clients, you know, a lot of celebrities. I was working with the Beckhams and, you know, musicians and stuff. So it kind of was hand in hand, really. Then when Simon left, it kind of changed for me a little bit. I think at that time it was kind of me realizing that I needed to do session work, purely just session work. So I left Sassoon's. I got myself an agent who represented me in London, and then really just started, you know, working in sessions. And then I think it was a couple of years later, Simon and I, who were still in touch, Simon approached me and said, you know, that told me that he was now working for Schwarzkopf Professional, and that his idea was really to go in and basically kind of change it up a little bit, and from my point, turn it upside down and make it something different. And he wanted me to come in and work on this collection, which was Essential Looks. I think it was already established as a collection, but Simon had this idea that he wanted to, you know, Simon being Simon and very forward thinking and very driven and very brave, you know, as a creative director, kind of wanted to make things of this collection, and brought in people like me, and that was the start of my relationship at Schwarzkopf Professional, and working on Essential Looks, which I'm still working on now. I mean, Simon and I have known each other nearly over 25 years, and for the last 19 years, we've been working on Essential Looks together.
Wow.
And from my point, there's a reason why I'm still there, and that's purely because of people like Simon and the team around him and the marketeers that the company's got, of being really forward thinking, and, you know, and yeah, I mean, I feel very blessed to be a part of that creative team.
So yeah, and the team obviously works really well together. So Simon, to you on this, when you got to Schwarzkopf, were you given a directive, or, you know, you are brave and you are outspoken and you will say if it's not right, and that's what's great. But also in a corporate, that can also be quite a challenge.
That's a very good question, very insightful. I think you know, I think us three coming from, all of us in a sense, coming from a hairdressing background, I don't think people realize what it means working in a salon or an education facility, and then walking out of the world of hair into the world of corporate hair. Kind of, you know, it's a whole different notion. You know, there are restrictions, there are rules, there are regs, there is a kind of corporate classical mindset where, as you say, you know, you have to have a concept, you have to have then the measures that create and how you drive it out. There has to be a real systematic process from the start of an idea right the way through to delivery into the market. And all of those elements have to gain approval, and you might have various different tiers of approvals that you've got to go through. And that was really, I think, very difficult. I think I was really lucky to report directly to the CEO of the company at the time. I was really lucky, and so therefore he was the one who had actually instigated the need to build the hairdresser arm to the business. So he actually gave me complete freedom. I mean, in the sense of once he trusted you, he gave you the freedom to really move. And he was the one who, in a sense, protected me against, shall we say, the corporate barriers. Bureaucracy, yes.
Yes.
And that allowed one to be able to breathe and grow. And for me, the first issue was I always believed that in hairdressing, the thing that drives us is, first of all, the visual. You know, we are visual people. So it's really, for me, it's about, you know, yes, we're a craft, but it's about the visual identity of what you see. So we always see something really nice. And what we're attracted to is the visual side and then the spoken word. If it's got a great strap line, it's really powerful as a message, you know, and that's the thing that jumps out at people. And I think for me, what was really important was that our industry is emotional. We're driven, we're EQ, we're not IQ, so to speak. And yes, of course, sometimes the corporate world needs to combine this. But often the corporate world is too IQ and not EQ enough. And I think what we do in our company is to kind of bridge the two, you know, and I think I'm very lucky to have, you know, in my team, this ability to be able to deliver the emotional quotient, so to speak. And I think really, you know, for me, the first thing that I recognize is that what we needed to do was change the image of the company. To change the image of the company, it's about the visual identity. And for me, the first job that I did when I entered the company was to create a vision of what we stood for. Because I kept asking everybody, what is Schwarzkopf Professional? And no one really knew how to explain it. And I said, okay, well, we need to have something that binds us together. Because in Sassoon, in my part of the Sassoon, we always used to say, we are the Harvard of hair. The goal was to be the Harvard of hair. That was the aspiration.
Yeah.
And so in Sassoon, in Schwarzkopf, I started by literally, the first job was to create this idea of together, full stop, a passion for hair. So together is this idea of partnership. And that's really important to me, that it's together mutually that we grow. And to be passionate about something means to do something better. It's something that engenders action, it's not a passive emotion. And for me, that was the bridge to be able to build something of quality. And therefore, what I wanted to do was introduce this idea of quality, because there was something called Essential Looks in the organization already. It had been started as an idea in 1997, but it was actually a toy to be able to allow our best clients who spent the most to actually have a little photo shoot. And some of the quality was absolutely crap. I mean, really, it was an embarrassment. And I just felt that this was not the way to go forward. It wasn't really where we wanted to be one day, and that wasn't my job brief. But the word essential looks is something that was really current. And I feel even today, you know, the real looks, the essential part of what we do. So that was basically the starting point to say, could we create an image-based using this kind of title? And that was the launch pad to say, you know, how do we do it? And how we did it, and the best way to do it is to say, you need to take fashion. And where does fashion start? It starts on the catwalks. And that also came from the history of actually doing fashion weeks in Sassoons to some degree. And that was the kind of launch pad of how we started. And the issue was more to say, how can you define a quality standard? And given that our company is primarily also a color house, it was really important to have, for me, to have colorists and hairstylists, you know, so we say, or editorial stylists, not to have generalists that combine the two. Because, you know, whether you believe in Vidal or not, but the one legacy he used to say, you're either master of one or master of none. And for me, that was really important. And he said, when you're a master of something, it allows you to elevate your standards and elevate your price. So it's about image, because you can charge more. And I think this always resonated with me. And that was why within the context of Essential Looks, we tried to find specialist arenas to be able to play in. And still today, the claim, Together a Passion for Hair, remains the Schwarzkopf Professional 20 years later. So it's never dated, thank God. And it's still what we stand for as an organization, and Essential Look stands. And we still have this same quality standard to this day, using the world's best talent and engaging with the world's best talent.
It's business critical though, isn't it, for a colour house or product house to have that link and that to be able to resonate with the stylist, but also then to allow the stylist to be able to communicate with their clients. Because, you know, often we all see stuff in consumer magazines on catwalks and think that's amazing, but that would never be suitable for me. And I think in some cases, for some stylists and colour technicians, it's quite difficult to translate what they see on a catwalk, wherever that catwalk may be, and how they can make it work in salon. And for me, Essential Looks kind of bridges that gap. It shows you how to take those really forward-thinking trends and make them salon and client friendly.
Guys, Tyler, I mean, rather than me hog the Leslie, Tyler, come on, you step in, you talk.
I was just going to throw the bomb in. So
okay, throw the bomb in.
What do you start with? Is it
well, let's start with
colour?
Let's start with
I think you know, when I think there's a process with what we do at Essential Looks. I'm not sure, you know, if many people are aware of how it works, but obviously it's guided from what's going on in the shows for, you know, fashion weeks from New York, Paris, Milan, and London. And obviously I'm part of the team, or you know, I work backstage, or, you know, lead designers team. So I'm aware of what's going on. Also, and then really I kind of come back to Simon and I say, okay, this is what we're looking at. These are the kind of trends that are coming in from designers. And what Simon and his team doing, they're literally watching what's going on as well. And I think from our point as a company, we're really looking at a real cross section of trends that the end consumer, the professional hairdresser, and the consumer are going to wear. Now, we all know that what we see on the runway is kind of sometimes of extremes.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a bit like, you know, with the clothes themselves, you know, you could always guarantee 6 months down the line, you know, Zara and Topshop would be taking those inspirations and diluting them and making them more commercial. And that's in a sense what we do with the trends from the hair. I think what we also do is kind of, we go for, you know, we have a cross section of looks that are very directional, and that are very session based and very brave. but we also make sure that there's a real thread to commercialize it and to give more of a softer, a version that, you know, the clients are going to be, you know, that's wearable. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, we're in the beauty industry, and it's our job to make people look good, you know,
and feel good.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, so these trends have to work, and we educate in a way that, you know, not all things are going to be a work on every client. You know, if it's a strong fringe in this season, we need to make sure it's kind of, you know, it works to the individual and all of those things. And that's part of our education. And then we come together and you know, under Simon's eye, we really look at it and go, okay, this season we're going to go for something that's very sophisticated and very glamorous, but also we're going to have something that's very kind of clean and very architectural. And then we're going to have something that maybe is quite youthful and quite dangerous and quite, you know, edgy. And do you know what I mean? So there's always a cross section of work that we try to, you know, put out there.
And how does the process work, Lesley? Because obviously you are the colour queen, there is no doubt about that. So how do you make sure that, you know, you can translate what Tyler and the team might be doing on session, but what he's then bringing back to Essential Looks, so that, you know, because colour is a huge part of salon's business, and it's, you know, the bread and butter of the, you know, most P&Ls in a salon. So how does that process work between you? Because, you know, you're all strong individuals. How does that?
I mean, for me as a colorist, what is perfect about Essential Looks is it really showcases how every haircut looks better with great color. And so from a kind of point of getting Essential Looks together, I kind of start a little bit before, because I'm working very closely with all the brands, because really Essential Looks is the global platform for any new launches, any new technologies, anything that comes out or is about to come out, we shoot it in Essential Looks. And it's, you know, it's the main brand images for all those sort of sub brands. So I start off a little bit before and I find out what's happening, what's going to be coming up. I'm testing those products, you know, here in this office, I'm testing products on different hair types. I then kind of, we work together you can hear, we work very, very closely together. When the fashion weeks are going on, we are in constant communication with each other, seeing different things across, you know, the 4 main catwalks and other ones, the 4 main cities, and seeing particular things that are, you know, you're seeing over and over again in each city. And then we come together. I always do like mood boards, not sort of digital mood boards. I do tactile mood boards, so we can just pull things off and to show. Sometimes when you're working with some marketing as well, to sort of talk color, because you know how I am. I talk very, very kind of, it's all about, you know, blonde woods and a pack of blondes and, you know, muted cashew nuts and stuff. But, you know, sometimes you need to be very kind of clear as to what those tones are and how you really visualize this on this model. If you could begin, I hope that Simon will talk about this, the lead up to the shoots is incredible. Everything is broken down, and we work and work and work, and we put everything into it. It's literally, we know when we get to that studio, we know every single thing we're doing almost minute by minute. It's amazing. And we have pre-production meetings pre-lockdown where every member, you know, gets together. In fact, with the one that we've shot, we did a virtual PPM and a virtual casting, and then thankfully lockdown lifted up and we did a second casting. But it's amazing, and you've got all these people who are so passionate about making every single Essential Looks the very best it can be. You know, there's us and other, you know, guests that come in, the best photographers, the makeup, everybody is there and doing their utmost.
No, that's brilliant.
I mean, the thing is, Jane, we have actually, believe it or not, I mean, I always say it is the publishing house for our company. So we see it as that is the publishing house. So basically all the imagery around for our brands and everything for Schwarzkopf is coming from the Essential Looks arena. And what we now try to do is that we bundle all the brand shoots together with a collection. So we do 2 points in the year. So there are 2 big blocks that we shoot, always 2 weeks after Paris. So Paris is always the critical part, and then we shoot 2 weeks later. And conceptually, as you were asking the question before, we basically take catwalk to high street. So it's the idea literally to show always 1 or 2 models that are more directional, and then how they are cascaded down technically, whether that's a simpler color technique or a simpler cutting technique, into a more commercial environment. So therefore, as you say, for daily salon use, it's easily adaptable to a wearable by a salon client. That's the important thing.
And I think
also,
even
you
with
share
colour,
sorry, Leslie. Go on, Leslie. Sorry.
I would say, sorry, even with color techniques, even with those, you know, really strong looks, those catwalk looks, we really work to make sure that they are all user friendly. They're all kind of client friendly and, you know, technician friendly. So all the techniques we aim to have done in sort of half an hour, 45 minutes. So, and that again is something that's very, very important to the whole kind of ethos of essential looks, that it's user friendly for anybody.
Now, I've been really fortunate because I've also seen Essential Looks live, which is fantastic experience in various places, and it's been brilliant. But obviously this year has presented challenges to all of us, and including Essential Looks, but you managed to go live with it virtually. So how did that even come about? Because I watched it and it was a huge production and was brilliant, but I can only imagine the planning and the thinking behind that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Jayne, we have a full-time team of 3 who manage the whole Essential Looks arena, because already, I mean, Tyler and Leslie will tell you, we've already shot the next collection. So the 120, the spring summer 2021 is already in the can. It was done, and we shot it a couple of weeks ago. You know, done and dusted, because you're already moving ahead. Because the next part is the education part. How do you roll it out? Because it goes to 106 countries around the world. And as
that's a challenge, because it's a global. They've also, the looks have got to be suitable for a global platform that you can adapt, whether it's hair like mine or very thick, coarse, dark hair. It has to be suitable. Sorry, Simon, I interrupted you.
No, you're absolutely right. And so basically what we have is that we have, if you think of it like a mountain, so basically you have us at the top creating it. And then we have a sub-layer, which is our ambassadors. The people who are going to roll it out and represent it into the countries are what we call ambassadors. And they're ambassadors for the brand. And every country has their own ambassadors that are normally creatives. We call them the creative collective. They're really creative people who want to stand up and be seen and be, you know. And basically what we do is have a training program, and we roll that out in the form of a show followed by training masterclasses that run behind it. And then everybody walks away with the full package and then implements it in their country. So that's literally how it kind of cascades outwards. And I mean, this year we did it because of COVID. We went from having a physical event to a digital event, purely a digital event. And that was, I have to say, we had to bring in a number of production agencies. And I'm sure with the awards, you're facing exactly similar problems. You've literally got to go kind of from physical to digital. It's amazing, you know, and the complexities that go with it are huge. And I have to be honest with you, so do the costs. They kind of exponentially grow because of the COVID, the health and safety measures that you have to have, because we had about, I've forgotten guys, we had about 40 or 50 people on set, and they all have to stand the set. So we have, you know, it was really, but you know, I think this is the future. And I think, you know, if you think hybrid, you know, like with your awards, and I'm really excited about your awards that are going to take place, because there you're engaging with lots of different people. You're going to have a live audience interacting with you. Fantastic. And I think that's what we didn't have so much of in our one. Ours was more streaming outwards. You know, we created, yes, it was a live event. I'd most probably pre-film now, but we did a live event with a live Q&A, and there were ups and downs. You know, the links broke in some countries. It was a problem, and it always will. There'll always be these problems. Has it been a learning? Absolutely. Do I miss having an audience? Yes, I do. Should we have live audiences? Yes, we should. Whether they're even digital live In other words, why not invite the front runway as guests, and you have TV monitors,
Absolutely.
and there is, I don't know, one of your, one of your ambassadors sitting there from, I don't know, Beijing or whatever.
Yeah.
You have this front row of monitors with all these people sitting in. I mean, for me, it's much more engaging to have this kind of field. And so I think you're very lucky to have your event where you've got the option to be creative and invite the world to be part of it, you know.
Be part of it.
Yeah.
We are going to post the so it's people can still view that event, can't they, on essentiallooks.com. So we're going to post that in the Facebook Facebook chat as well, so that people
it's worth
can go
looking at. Absolutely.
go and have a look at that. So so come on then. Are there any ever arguments about cut versus colour?
Well, I was going to say, Miss Fetish Jumper. I've got to say, Miss Fetish Jumper, I've got a question to ask you.
There's always arguments, but I think, you know, you'd be crazy to think after all these years of working so closely together. Yeah. You know, when you love somebody, I love these guys. Yeah. You know, when you love somebody, you can be like that. It's great. Would be crazy to think that you know, you're going to agree with everything that people say.
Tyler's going to say something really controversial. I can just tell.
No. My wife always says that Lesley deserves a gold medal because she spends more time with me than my wife does. She calls her my work wife. But I think, you know, the team is really, really important. I think, you know, just something I want to say is what's great about being able to work on this collection is, and I can say it in front, I know you're there, Simon, but sometimes when you're working, and especially in the corporate world, and obviously I'm a session stylist, so I'm used to working with a lot of clients, and a lot of the time there is a brief. And I think with Essential Looks, there is definitely a brief. We have to, and as Lesley says, we're very well organized. We know what we're doing before we enter the studio. Yeah. But for me, a lot of that magic happens when, you know, when I'm on set. I mean, it's my favorite place, kind of doing hair, the photographer's there. And I think hair evolves, and it should do. And what's good about that is sometimes we have a view on how it's going to look. And sometimes I can go off on one, and Simon allows that. He allows me to go off. And it might be that we don't sometimes use those images, but I think that's really important, that you kind of push yourself and you go past that. Because I think sometimes that's when interesting things happen. And, you know, having an amazing creative director allows you to do that. And a client I think is special.
I think people often say that the last shot of the day is often the one that they've spent all day trying to get to. And it's the one that was probably the least planned, but it kind of evolved with the team on site.
Or the first one.
Or the first, and then you should just stop messing about with it. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. But
so you've already mentioned, Simon, you've shot now. So I'm very much looking forward to us receiving those images. How far in advance do you guys work?
Basically,
6 months.
Yeah, 6 months. You're always shooting 6 months ahead. So, the reason why, Jane, is because one, fashion is like that. The catwalks are always showing you next season. But for us, the advantage is that we try to cascade all those learnings downwards into our product lines. Yeah. So basically, for example, if you can identify the colors that are the main key colors of the season, then the idea is Lesley, the wonderful Lesley, our color queen, can literally take those colors, and literally we can create either palettes of color, so we can actually create special promotions around those colors, particular colors. Okay. So we do that, exactly that. We might put a color mix together. So Lesley's brought in to create a color recipe. For example, it might involve the 4 colors of the season, or she might only select 2, but this is how it works. And then the textures, that what is really important, that's why I really bang on at Tyler, that what we do is that when we're looking at what goes on the catwalk, we're literally pulling all these ideas out. We put lots of, you should see these rooms. We have these kind of creative rooms where we put up Post-its, where the guys can do tear sheets. They can take photos from screen of what was walking down the runway, like you might see an Yves Saint Laurent or a Dior look, and go, that's exactly, it's got a side parting, it's really tight, or there might be volume or this curl. And what we do is take that inspiration, and again, that's cascaded into the styling area. So we actually take all of this. So we have an amazing brand called Osis Session Label, which is this black label styling product. And it's literally designed around, created by Tyler and the team of editorial stylists. So it's specific products for the editorial stylist. And we basically are inspired literally from what goes on the catwalk. So we take those things and say, okay, it needs to be soft texture. And then the guys, Tyler and the team, will work on creating these soft textures in terms of the micros, where they work with the marketing team and the R&D guys. And that's, so all this stuff cascades into the product lines. And that's the critical thing, because at the end of the day, you know, it's great. And it's fantastic. But I always say to clients, you know, at the end of the day, what's our goal as a company? It's actually to sell product, you know,
absolutely.
And we have to engage and have to have a compelling story, and the product needs to work.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. We've already run over and we could go on all night. So no, not at all. It's absolutely fine. You've mentioned briefly the British Hairdressing Awards, and we are going virtual for the first time in our 36-year history and partnership together.
Yes.
So, I mean, you were part of the process with that, Simon, and were very supportive of us continuing with actually running the event. We managed to do the judging in a very safe and COVID way, but it's critical to the event. And I think you were really you were hugely supportive, as was Schwarzkopf, of us continuing, so that we, you know, there is some normal in the world, and the British Hairdressing Awards has to happen.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Jayne. I mean, I personally absolutely believe that we as an industry need showcases, both to showcase our talent, to showcase the industry at large. And for me, what you have done in Britain, I mean, dare I say it, you know, sitting in Germany as you know, but the British Hairdressing Awards, I call it literally the Oscars of hair. I really do. And we are so proud to be your co-pilot, because you really exemplify excellence in both the quality of participation, the quality of judging, and really the impartiality of your judging systems. Yeah. And I know how tough that is and how well you audit it. No, because I know we run hairdressing awards in other countries, and this is always a topic. Did someone cheat? And so the impartiality, the checking of the judging is critical. And then at the end, you create superlative events. I really, you know, and I truly celebrate you, you know.
Wow,
and I think, and for me, these kind of events are inspirational, and they're a beacon, a lighthouse for what we do as an industry as a whole. And to convince you, as you say, the powers that be, whether it's the members of parliament or the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, that really hairdressing counts and needs to be looked after and persevered. It's those kind of events that actually drive this. And for me, that and education, and it is education in a way, because you have to train to be this good. You know, so it's all part and parcel of being really true professionals. And I salute you of what you and your team do, really. And I say that with no reason other than just that we long may it continue. Okay.
Yeah,
and yes, I am absolutely a supporter, and yes, I fight very hard internally to make sure our partnership works, because it's critical that we have people like you by our side, because you stand for what's best in our industry. Okay.
Well, thank you. And it's also the pillar, isn't it, to promote? It's the pillar that helps attach the hairdresser and the industry to the brand. I mean,
to the brand, exactly.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a real emotional attachment there. Totally. So I'm going to ask, because we can't all be together, which is the first time in a very long time that we won't be in the same place together watching it on awards night. Leslie, what are your plans for that night?
I shall be watching digitally. I shall be there in spirit.
Best dressed. Don't forget, we're still doing best dressed. So we want people
definitely be dressed.
We want people
full makeup,
glammed up.
Full hair. Absolutely.
And you're allowed to raise a glass, Leslie. You're allowed to raise a glass. Hopefully, you know, you could stand with a glass of champagne.
Absolutely.
So some of us can drink.
A glass or two or three. Yeah, definitely.
And Tyler?
Yeah, I will be there. I'll probably have my tracksuit bottoms on. I'll have a smart top on for you.
Thank you. I will be checking now. I'm going to make you stand up in the virtual rooms beforehand. I'll be like, have you got your trousers on? No, that would be brilliant. And Simon, I know you'll be joining us too. So
absolutely.
And
completely.
It would be, thank you so much, all of you, for your time and sharing all that kind of insight. And, you know, I think it's really important for people to understand the creative process and the work. And actually, one of the big takeouts about that was it's planning, isn't it? So prepare to fail. You know, you've got to get it right. You have to prepare all the time. So thank you all. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you.
And can't wait until we can all be together again properly. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.